Your turn.
You don't have to.
We don't? Okay. Let's call the meeting to order, the City of Greenfield Array Sacred Groundwater Sustainability Agency. We'll start with roll call.
Chair Thorpe,
Here.
Vice Chair Griva,
Here.
Board Member Wood,
Here.
Board Member White.
Here. Okay, we all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Public comments for items not on the agenda. This portion of the agenda allows an individual the opportunity to address the GSA on any items not on closed session, consent calendar, public hearings, and agency business. Under state regulations, no action can be taken on non-agenda items, including issues raised under this agenda item. Members of the public should be aware of this when addressing the GSA regarding items not specifically referenced on this agenda. Do we have any public comments for items not on the agenda?
I don't see any raised hands, Mr. Chairman, from the
Neither do I.
folks online.
Okay. So consent calendar, all matters listed under consent calendar are considered routine and may be approved by one action of the agency unless a request for removal for discussion or explanation is received prior to the time agency votes on the motion to adopt. We have one item. It's the adoption of the April 28th minutes. Move to approve.
I'll second it.
Been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carried. Okay, agency business
So,
received.
Mr. Chairman, just as
Yes,
a
sir.
reminder, you've already made the motion and approved, but typically we do go out for public comment before you take action, even on consent.
So is there public comments on approval of the minutes?
I didn't see any.
Okay, so we'll move on.
Yes, sir.
Receive a presentation regarding 4-bay fees, oral report.
Bear with me, Mr. Chairman. So our agenda today is largely going to be about information relative to fees. I think it's important that the board, see regularly what the fees are going to be charged in the 4-bay and in the Arroyo Seco co-management area. They're the same. We cannot establish the fee amounts. Give me a minute here while I figure out how to share my screen. Were we successful?
There we go.
Bingo. Okay. So what you have in front of you is just really, it's the summary. If you'll notice, 113 is the 4-bay fee. And if I do this correctly, there we go. I think you can see both the 2027 and the 2026 fees. 2026 would be the year we're currently in, and they're at $13.83 per acre for the 4-bay. They're going to increase to $14.40 for 2027. Kind of a nominal increase. The majority of the fee is made up of the tier 1 element. The way the Salinas Valley Basin GSA has essentially established fees. I think it's an appropriate approach where you have an administrative fee, largely a regulatory fee that's spread throughout and evenly throughout the groundwater basins. That's the tier 1. The tier 2 fees are aimed at specific items that are ongoing within various subbasins. So if we look at, for instance, last year in 26, we can see that the Monterey region and the pressure had higher fees than did the Forebay. That's because they had a lot more things going on in preparation of their annual report and completion of a lot of studies that were necessary and ongoing that were all focused on just those various subbasins. We're likely to see larger tier 2 fees in the future than what we've seen thus far. The Salinas Valley Basin GSA received millions of dollars to do a bunch of studies, to look at seawater intrusion, to look at solutions, to do planning. And I think it was all well spent, don't get me wrong. But had that money not come from the state, it would have had to come from the rate base, right? In this case, it would have been largely the 180 East Side and Monterey. So as we get further into Sigma and the implementation, those grant dollars are likely to start to dry up significantly. And we're gonna see increase in those tier 2 fees. I bring this to you for twofold. One, of course, is that you see it. So you have an idea of what the Forebay charges are, and they're relatively small comparatively, and they're kind of evenly distributed for 2026 and 2027. We start to see changes. And I guess the good news is for us is that we don't have a whole lot of actionable items, that we have to do in the Forebay this round. We will be updating and amending our GSP this summer. So you'll see a lot more of that. That's all kind of rolled in to the action plan. They're likely to have impacts in the years out. But the Forebay is largely balanced. I would say it's sustainable. We'll talk more about it as we get into the demand management item. But the groundwater basin continues to rebound after significant droughts. The last drought in the 2010s is a good example. We've recovered. The groundwater elevations have risen. We've had kind of a wet string through the early 2020s. And hence we don't really need like a large project like what's being contemplated for the pressure zones to fix seawater intrusion. Completely different things. But those fixes and those management actions are all tier 2 fees. And it's also noteworthy for you guys in particular to know and to, I think, acknowledge that the Salinas Valley Basin GSA does all the work in the Forebay. And we don't really have a lot of work that we're actually doing. So they're holding up their end of the coordination agreement in that regard. They're doing the work, they're paying for it, getting it done. The only cost that you guys are seeing is administrative costs for myself and then some of this consulting work that Gus Yates does. Some of the work that Gus has done to date has been in the grant funding or, umbrella, under the grant funding umbrella, and has been paid for. And we got reimbursements from the state through the Salinas Valley Basin GSA. But anyways, I wanted you to be aware of the fees, know that the coordination committee does talk about them, and that we're going to continue to talk about them and make sure that we're tracking them. So I'll pause here and ask if you have any questions. If I can. Yeah. And do you know how I can stop sharing?
There you go. It's paused now.
There it is. Bam. Yes. Only moderately technologically challenged. Just to learn how to use the tools. Anyways, so it's given our relationship with the Salinas Valley Basin GNR agreement, I think it's important that you guys see those fees. And I'll do my best to bring more information earlier in the process as we go along. So I didn't hear any questions. Mr. Chairman, you probably go out to the public, see if there's any comments.
Any public comment? I
Ms.
have
Isaacson
Nancy Isaacson.
and then Mr. Versick.
Okay, Nancy?
Yes, Nancy Isaacson, Salinas Valley Water Coalition. Hey, I wanted, one thing I think, and maybe I missed it, Curtis, but the Salinas Valley Basin GSA Board will be adopting these fees in June, it's my understanding at their June meeting. And just, I only want to share this just so that you're aware that, there is opposition to the tier 2 fees. It continues, even though they've been in place for a couple of years. Your general manager attends the meetings. He does, very well as far as protecting your interests. But I thought it might be important to share that there is opposition, and some people feel that the tier 2 fees really should be tier 1 fees and spread across the board because everybody should pay for everything. And so I think the Seco GSA made great strides in identifying and determining, that they are separate from many others and of the other subbasins, including separate from the forebay. But I think it's just going to be, I only wanted to share this because I think it's important to understand that there is opposition out there and they do continue to make loud noise. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Isaacson. I would echo your comment, agree that it's appropriate that there are tier two fees because frankly, those monies are being spent subbasin by subbasin, and they're not really applicable for an area like the Arroyo Seco or the forebay when they're really programs focused on the pressure subzone and the east side subzone, so, and the Monterey for that matter. We're going to continue to be supportive of that distinction. Mr. Versick, you had your hand up. Did you not?
I see he took it down.
No?
No, it looks like he took his hand down.
Okay.
So is there any other public comment?
No, sir.
Okay. Board comments? Questions? None?
None.
No action to be taken.
No, these are, apologize. We don't really have any action items tonight, but we do have some things I want to talk about, especially in the demand management, which is coming up. This
Okay.
preview.
Well, let's move on to demand management update. More
Okay.
report.
Let's do that. Well, we did our best to hold an advisory committee meeting this month and we failed. But we'll get it rescheduled. We'll try and get it done in June. With the thought being is I want to bring some of this detailed information to the advisory committee first. So they have a chance to react to it. And so that you guys have their understanding and their input into the process. But in general, what we're doing as the Arroyo Seco GSA through Gus Yates's work is to take a much more detailed and refined data-driven approach to demand management and then the development of demand management in the Arroyo Seco cone and perhaps in the broader forebay. This has come out of a process led by the Salinas Valley Basin GSA and the Technical Advisory Group that dropped into an approach where they use their groundwater model and then they, essentially looked at the last, 30 years, I think, 30, 40 years. And then they took that hydrograph for the basin and then replicated it in the future so that there would have, they would be able to use the model to be predictive of the future using the past 40 years worth of model data. Now, the real important distinction is that this process that the Salinas Valley Basin GSA wanted to implement was model-based. Yes, the model does have some data, but the model doesn't use data like we would use data in this regard. You know, when we go out every year and we survey the wells to find out whether or not they're, you know, at the measurable objective or if they're below the minimum threshold, we actually grab data and say, is this well a problem? And as you've seen in all of the annual reports thus far, we've not had any wells in the minimum threshold category or below. They've all been in that operating band. And Gus Yates, Mr. Yates knows that the forebay operates like a forebay. When there's recharge, it fills up. And when we have drought conditions, it draws down. And it's gone up and down like that, seasonally, certainly, but you know, over extended periods when we've had droughts for decades, maybe centuries. I don't know how long the Griva family has been pumping wells, but it's a while. And we might be reaching that, you know, century mark here, not too long.
Passed it.
Past it? See? Past it. So I can't say hundreds. But my point is this, is that we've seen, and we've looked at lots of hydrographs, that the basin looks largely sustainable. Okay, I will acknowledge in the last rebound, it might not got quite up to where it was in the past. And I've mentioned this to you. And Mr. Yates has taken a fairly detailed approach at looking at data. And he's found that, yeah, we might be in a period where our recharge is a little less than what the historic recharge has been. I'll call it rainfall because the recharge is largely dependent upon rainfall. So we've had almost like a really mild, prolonged drought. And what that will do over time is that if pumping remains the same and if the conditions remain the same, we might see some declines in that operating zone, you know, where we got our measurable objective. It's what we'd like it to be all the time, but it never is. And the minimal threshold, which we want to avoid, we have an operating volume in that basin, and we expect the water elevations to go up and down, especially year to year, because we don't pump 24/7 and we don't get rainfall all year long. So it's going to move up and down, but if it rebounds, we're good. But the point is that if it doesn't rebound as much as it has in the past, and if that continues for decades, we may need to take some sort of demand management actions in order to stay within that operating band. The way to think about this is that we don't really want to be in a situation where we're, you know, riding right on top of the minimum threshold. We hit a drought and you know, we drop way below it and we lose a lot of wells operability. We don't want to do that. So we need to take a measured approach at looking at hard data over time to figure out what that demand management program might look like. And this kind of program is really aimed at the long-term sustainability of the forebay. So we're talking decades. You know, every 5 years, you know, we're going to go through this process of updating our GSPs, and it's a good time to take a look and see where we're at in that rebound and if there's anything's changed. But it's likely that somewhere out there, 10, 20, 30 years, if this decline continues in the recharge, that we might want to take some actions. And given the spatial distribution of some of the wells in the forebay, we might want to take targeted actions on a few wells. All that is yet to be determined, but the approach to demand management that we're going to take is not going to be a model-based approach. It's going to be a data-driven approach so that we can really refine how we take those actions. That's a significant distinction, because let me share with you how the model approach was recently used. When the Salinas Valley Basin GSA went out and developed their brackish groundwater replenishment project, they also developed a no action alternative that they submitted to the Bureau of Reclamation. This is part of the process in order to be eligible to receive grant funding. Well, in that document, that no action alternative imagines a groundwater basin where no project is built. We have seawater intrusion. So the only lever that the Salinas Valley Basin GSA has is to apply demand management and throttle back pumping, while knowing that it's not going to stop seawater intrusion by 2040 and may not stop it at all. Demand management doesn't work really well with seawater intrusion. Seawater intrusion is a very difficult problem to solve. I don't think it's easily solvable with demand management. And all the modeling data thus far says that they can't. So nevertheless, it's a tool they could use. They throttle back, they put it in the report, and then they throttle back pumping in several basins. Pressure, clearly, because it's got seawater intrusion. Eastside, Monterey, and the forebay. And they inserted a 9% reduction in pumping in the forebay based upon trying to prevent wells getting below the minimum threshold given their model runs. So their models project that like 15% of the wells would fall into groundwater elevations below the minimum threshold. I'm not convinced that's a technically sound approach. I know Gus challenged the approach during the SMC Tech, but that's what they did. And they've agreed and acknowledged that that's not what they would do, but it's written in the report. And so I think it's important for you guys, you directed us as staff to go out and develop our own. Well, we're going to develop one for the Arroyo Seco Cone. I hope it gets implemented broader, quite candidly, that's going to be data-driven. The other thing I want to tell you is that as we go to revise and update and amend our GSP this year, we're going to acknowledge that the demand management for the forebay, to keep it in long-term sustainable criteria territory, we're going to develop a demand management planning horizon in which will give us time to kind of work out the details in, I'll call it the Yates approach to demand management. So we're definitely out in front relative to what's going to happen in the forebay. Gus is already developing the program. I wanted to bring you up to speed with where we're headed. I got to bring all this technical data and our approach to the advisory committee, and we'll be back soon, but it's going to take us several months to actually work through all this. But I think it's important that I bring you along as we go along. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. I know it was a lot of words. Hopefully it made sense.
Any board questions or comments? Do we have any public comments? I see no. I don't see any hands.
I'm not seeing any hands, Mr. Chairman. It must have been the right words.
Okay. So there's no action to be taken. We'll move on to Groundwater Sustainability Agency General Manager's Report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Hey, this one is for all of you, except maybe Ms. Thompson. You're not a board member, but for the rest of you four, you guys got to help me find the fifth member. It's got to be a city member. It has to be someone from the city. It's not something that the GM can go out and canvas. I need your help in identifying somebody so that we can plus up our board.
It has to be a city member.
Yeah, relative to your MOA between the two organizations, or MOU, whatever it is.
A city resident.
It has to be a city
Resident
rep
or somebody. a
from the
business
city,
person.
the
From
fifth
city.
member.
Can it be a business person from Greenfield?
It can
or
be a
not
business person, it can be
Well,
a
that-
school teacher,
Let
it
me,
can,
let me finish. That doesn't live in Greenfield. That's the question. Is it a residency of Greenfield required?
I think it has to be a resident, yeah.
Okay.
It can be, an 18-year-old that is really interested in civic affairs. It can be a grandma that wants to get involved. It can be just a whole host of individuals. Just saying.
So basically, they just have to be a resident
Yeah.
of Greenfield
I'm Greenfield, yeah.
or the Greenfield School District or.
No, I think
'cause
the
city,
the-
it has to be
okay.
the city.
The city, because the
Okay.
boundary of the GSA is the city limits, so we need someone from the
Okay.
city.
Okay.
It'd be great to get somebody from one of the businesses though, just because, a lot of people that are in business are dealing with a lot of the things that we're dealing with here, and it just would make it, because every time, the biggest problem when you replace a board member is getting them up to speed, and that's always a challenge.
I will help them come up to speed. I'll sit them down and walk them through, water 101 and groundwater 101. But we do need it.
I've been doing it for 35 years and 35 years of training, and I still don't quite get it, so.
Well, I have a remedial water
Maybe
101.
maybe it's mandatory, I take another class. Start over.
Just kidding, just kidding. But thank you. I really would appreciate your help.
Okay.
The last thing that I want to talk about is the ongoing development of a solution for seawater intrusion. After our last board meeting, the advisory committee met again. And I am really questioning my sanity about accepting being the chairman for that group. But I will tell you that I thought we had a really good last meeting. We got an opportunity, I think, to kind of open up the process a bit and for everybody to get engaged around looking at, certain kinds of alternatives. I mean, frankly, there's not a whole lot. We could reach out into the ocean and desalt ocean water. There are some interesting theories about how that might work. There's brackish water, makes more sense because brackish water has less salt and it's already gone through like a giant soil filter. So it's kind of easier to treat. And then there's surface water. And that's not real reliable. So, we're looking at different alternatives. We put together a smattering of projects because not only do we need to solve the seawater intrusion in the pressure, we need to take care of the hole in the groundwater basin that's out there on the boundary of the pressure and east side. And, the Monterey area there out there in Marina and the rest of the seaside in that area, that needs some tweaking, as well as a few other places like my own little sub-basin they call the Monterey. I'm out there in Corral de Tierra and it doesn't recharge very well there. So I know we're headed towards demand management. Point being is that we looked at a variety of projects and put together these kind of portfolios that we're going to get in the month coming in June, with the idea of trying to make a recommendation to the board in July. The one thing that we did is we kind of took the brackets off of we got to make it by 2040 on a project, because frankly, I just don't know if we're going to get something built by 2040. And if we push the time frame out a ways and are making progress on stopping seawater intrusion, I believe the DWR will see that as a positive thing, and it really does change the cost numbers. I mean, some people kind of balked at reduction of 15% or 20%, but when we're talking close to $1 billion, that's some real money. So I'm letting you know that I thought we made a really good step forward. We'll have some more data the next meeting, and I'll brief you again at the end of June. And that, Mr. Chairman, is my report.
Any questions or comments from board members? Is there any public comments? I see none.
Nope.
Receive and file. Being no more business, we'll adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.